the Khidki Collective started in 2021. We are a group of scholars who are interested in building a public dialogue beyond academia. That our interest is to make academic knowledge accessible to various other publics. And towards this end, we have tried various formats. One, our flagship format has been Deccan Conversations, where we invite scholars, largely new scholars who have been working on the region of Deccan, to present their work in easy, accessible format to the audience. And over the years, we've built our own audience who's interested in this kind of work. Um, We've also started two other, online discussion series. One the language series, which looks at the languages of the Deccan, where we are discussing the interconnections, disjunctures, political, social, literary connections of languages. That's ongoing. And we also have another series which is called as Past Matters, where we're talking about various public history initiatives in the country. The idea is to bring back the focus on public history and see what work has been done, what can be done. We've also over these years we've worked with a lot of public writing. When we mean public writing, we again invite scholars to write for the public to make academic knowledge into accessible, easy to read short pieces which can be published on public platforms like The Wire, etc. We've hosted three series. One on The Wire, two on the News Minute, on specific instances which were very significant for the Deccan. For instance, one of our series was on 1948, where we had invited eight scholars to reflect on various aspects of the 1948. And these pieces also have been translated into other languages. They have been translated into Telugu, Marathi, and Kannada, which also was very interesting experience for us. And this is something which we are hoping to work ahead. That is to work on various other languages of the Deccan, to apart from English itself. We've also conducted a public writing workshop where we were trying to train and discuss the nitty-gritties and the difficulties in writing for public, because often as academics we are not trained to engage with public. We often write for other academics and in complicated language. So how do we enable another set of scholars apart from who regularly write for us, new scholars, to engage with public? And that was done last year. We're hoping to continue with that. And we conduct these programs largely online because it's an unfunded collective, mostly working, with volunteering our time and effort. So we often operate online, and sometimes, we also intend to do some physical work, provided we find some sources, etc. So that's broadly about Khidki Collective. And about today's event, we are collaborating with IFA, because IFA has some very interesting projects which have worked on the region of Deccan, which is also our core area of interest. So, and through this presentation today, IFA also wanted to discuss their program of, arts research. How do they work with art research? What kind of projects? How do they deliver, etc., which Harshita will talk more about. So over to you, Harshita. Thank you.
Thank you, Yamini. This is going to be a presentation on the research that is taking place in the Deccan region. So one of the speakers, the project is supported under the Arts Research Program of IFA, and the current RFP for the Arts Research Program is open, and we are accepting proposals. We are accepting applications till the deadline of September 10. So part of the reason why we selected this time to do this open house was to also invite applications from participants or practitioners, artists, scholars across Deccan to look at the RFP, see if it aligns and resonates with the kind of work that they're doing, and whether they would like to have a discussion with me. Write to me, please approach me, and let's discuss if there is any idea that you would like to put forward for receiving support. So the program began, the Arts Research Program officially began in 1995, and it began initially as Arts Research and Documentation Program. And the idea was to support both scholars and practitioners and initiate some sort of a critical reflection, bring in personal narratives into the domain of research, and along with documentation. That was the idea initially, but then the program underwent review, because occasionally all our programs in IFA undergo a review process, and then the program is relaunched. So then the program, arts research program, was relaunched in following the review, and the documentation part of the program was removed, and following the recommendations that was received from the experts in the field and past project coordinators. And then the program was called arts research, and the idea was to actually inculcate a spirit of questioning in the field, or push the field to think of research beyond documentation. So that was the idea. And now the program underwent another review after 10 years, and the review process included a festival that happened, a 3-day festival in October 2024 that happened, which was called Past Forward, the pleasure, purpose, practice of arts research. Both Sai and Yamini were present at the exhibition and the festival. And the festival showcased like this past 70 projects that we have implemented under the program. And this was part of the review. And now the program has been relaunched, and the RFP, the request for proposal, is open for applications. So I can also talk a little bit about the RFP, just give a brief idea what have been the changes in the RFP since the last call that went out. So usually when we talk about research, we do not really unpack the word research that much. And what happens is sometimes we end up following rehearsed paths of how we understand research in the country. So the idea this time was to also push the field a little bit to think of research in novel ways. So what we did in the RFP this time was to unpack the word research through different keywords. So if you will go through the request for proposal, you will see that there are other words through which you can interpret research. So there is inquiry, there is questioning, there is challenging of given narratives, there is also practice. So research can also be seen as practice. For example, like what is the practice of doing research as a craft. So that is also a way of seeing research. So this whole unpacking of research as a terminology was done to keep in mind that, to keep a flexible approach towards research, because arts itself is a very slippery terrain. So we wanted to keep the idea of research very open and flexible, and push the field to think about research beyond the given methodologies, beyond the given narratives and frameworks. So that's why this RFP is a little longer than last time, and we have expanded on what we want to understand through research and what we would like the field to respond to. And apart from that, this time we are also inviting applications from translators. Unlike all the other RFPs which we have circulated so far, there was not an direct emphasis on inviting applications from a certain community of translators. But this time, under the arts research RFP, we have targetedly approached translators whose work feeds into some sort of a research, not just translation from one language to another, but also thinking about the practice of translation, or thinking about the aesthetics and politics of translation. So we are openly encouraging translators to apply this time, and think of also reflect on the practice of translation rather than focusing on manuscript translation from one language to another. So that's the idea of the RFP this time. And the call remains open till September 10, and although we have stopped receiving draft proposals, yet if you have a pressing idea which you would like to discuss, please do not hesitate to write to me. My email ID, the website link, I will put it on the chat box, so you can, after the conversation has ended, you can go back and maybe copy it and take a look at it at your own time. And please get in touch with any one of us if you want to discuss any of the ideas, and eventually we can maybe come to some sort of assimilation of your idea. So that's all for now, and I will briefly introduce the speakers for today, Sai Sagar and Himabindu Chintakunta. Just give me a second. So So BVN Sai Sagar is a writer and researcher from Hyderabad, and he has a postgraduate degree from the School of Arts and Aesthetics, JNU, New Delhi. His work largely focuses on the arts of the Deccan with an interest in art history, visual culture, and textual traditions. As a project coordinator with the IFA's Arts Research Program, he is currently studying Telugu journals and magazines from 1920s to 40s, such as Bharati, Gruha Lakshmi, to understand how they have shaped the discourse on art, nationalism, society during the New Andhra School of Art movement. His project has evolved since he has applied, and now it is also, he has looked at digital archiving, he has analyzed visual and textual material, and he's planning to produce a monograph, some sort of a monograph in a repository of his resources which he has accumulated so far. And introducing Himabindu. Dr. Himabindu Chintakunta is an assistant professor at the Department of Liberal Arts, Mahe, Bangalore. She holds a PhD in communication from the University of Hyderabad, where her research examined print culture and publishing in princely Hyderabad. Her work spans media history, regional communication, and film studies, with recent publications including Notes Toward a Theoretical History of Indic Media in Public Culture. So over to you, Sai and Hima.
Hello, everyone. I hope you all can hear and see me. Yeah, thank you. So my sincerest gratitude, first of all, to India Foundation for the Arts, as well as the Khidki Collective for having this conversation. And I also express my sincere gratitude towards all the people who took time and made a choice and joined us on this conversation today evening. So I think I will have a presentation of my work and then we can have a conversation with Himabindu. Yeah. Just a second. Let me share my slides. Yeah. Can you see the presentation?
Yes. You can make it full screen, Sai.
Yeah. So this is what I'm calling today's presentation by me. It's called as the Archives, the Nation and the Publics, Visual Cultures of Art and Nationalism in Telugu Print Culture from 1920s to 40s. So the archives being the site of memory, of the collective public memory, the nation as a collective imagination of people, and the publics, those who get to participate in both the archives and the nation and their making. So in today's presentation, I will briefly take you all on a journey between 1920s and 40s and what was happening in Andhra or Madras Presidency, as it was called back then. So to begin with, I will take you through an exhibition review by a certain gentleman called O.J. Coldray. So Coldray was once upon a time around 1920s, he was the principal of the Government College of Art in Rajahmundry, Andhra. And he was reviewing for this magazine called as Triveni. Triveni is this magazine which also came out of Madras, except that Triveni was published in English. So in his review, he writes and he says the following lines expressing his dismay at how Indian art was being presented to a Western audience. This exhibition was happening in 1934, Wembley, London, and he largely sums up all the galleries that are there in this particular exhibition, saying there were Bombay pictures and Bengal pictures, but there were only around 15 pictures from Madras. And even those 15 pictures from Madras, they were half of them were painted by D.P. Roy Chaudhary, who is an artist of the Bengal school, and he shifted over to Madras and he was the principal of the College of Art and Craft at Madras. So he was like questioning this idea about what was left of the Madras, which is the largest part and another most important presidency of the British Indian government, was just 15 pictures. So it is a really long piece by him. I will do another quote from this exhibition by him. And this is the picture of O.J. Coldre, by the way. Only picture I could find online. And the rest of all his pictures and other things are in uh, the museum at Oxford, that is Ashmolean Museum, has drawings, paintings, sketches, and photographs by O.J. Coldre. O.J. Coldre is an artist in his own right, and he was also the mentor to these bunch of youngsters who would later become the new Andhra School of Art. So he questions this thing: why, in the name of all gods of art, there is nothing shown about the Andhra School, which was founded in Rajahmundry by Damadla Ramarao. And what about the talented ladies of the Damadla family, he says, and the paintings at the Damadla house? He expresses his dismay in the last lines by saying, it appears that Indian art and South India, as well as the Indian society, were very ill served by somebody, whoever has curated this particular exhibition. Well, there are these politics always happening with curation in museum displays, as well as in art galleries and other spaces. What O.J. Coldre was trying to do by writing this article was he was trying to be some sort of a cultural curator, trying to explain to people the importance of having more pictures from the new Andhra school and how there exists something called as this Andhra school. So we will move into and look at what exactly is this Andhra school or the new Andhra school and why is it important. So these two press articles, one above is from the year 1990 and the other is as recent as May 2025, and both of them talking about the same issue in hand, that is the gallery in Rajahmundry being in a great state of neglect. Almost 3 decades and nothing has changed. So when I'm having this conversation about the new Andhra School of Art and their paintings, I look at it that largely it has been overlooked by those who are writing these national art histories around that time. And they are generally dismissed under this thing as this is just a regional school. This is what was left of Bombay and Calcutta around that time, those two popular styles of art. So in 1969, there came a monograph about Damadla Ramarao and his masterpieces. And a few documents at the archives, they mention that this school of art, which is started by this artist called as Damadla Ramarao and run as a family enterprise from Rajahmundry, it was almost run as a charitable institution with minimal tuition fee being collected from people. So the Damadla School of Art or the Rajahmundry School of Art, it ran until the 90s actively. First, when Damadla Ramarao took over and till his untimely death in 1928. And after his death, he has passed on the reins of the school to his sister and his wife, both Digumurti Bucci Krishnamma, his sister, and Damirla Satyavani, his wife, both great artists in their own right, except that they did not get formal art education like Damirla Ramarao did. Damirla Ramarao graduated from the JJ School of Art, the prestigious art school in Bombay. So this is the art gallery, and as you can see, the foundation stone of this art gallery was laid by Durgabai Deshmukh. Durgabai Deshmukh is another figure who becomes later on a very important character in both the histories of Andhra and Telangana. So post that article came from Madhu Jain in India Today, it made a lot of waves, and a lot of people came to the gallery with their donations, and they had this new building, which includes images from other artists apart from the family enterprise of the Damirlas. There are other artists like Chamakur Satyanarayana and all the others. The pictures I'll be showing you in the next few slides. So this is particular picture is called as Siddhartha Ragodayam, or the awakening of Siddhartha. So as you can see in this picture, Siddhartha is seated towards the left, and he's handing out a necklace to Yashodhara, his wife, in a public declaration of love. The painting is neatly divided into two planes of action. One is the Siddhartha side, and the other being the Yashodhara side. I will not talk in much elaboration about this painting. Instead, I will leave you people with a link in the end from where you can read about this painting. I have started sharing individual analysis and micro-analysis of these art pieces which came out in the magazines in my Substack piece. So I'm thinking individually, when you look at these images, they're of more value than looking at them as a magazine images just passing in between the text. So this, when you talk about art in Andhra, the representation of Buddha within the regional traditions also becomes an important aspect. So the earlier picture I have shown you, it celebrates the princely life of Buddha, that is Siddhartha, before he goes on to the path of attaining Buddhahood. But these later pictures, they subscribe to these aesthetics and ideals of Indian art as this sort of a transcendental art, which is spiritual. The purpose of Indian art being spiritual, as advocated by critics like Ananda Kumaraswamy, E.B. Havell, and others, whose writings become very important foundational and fundamental steps in understanding the art history writing in India. So towards the left in this image, you see this Siddhartha sacrificing, and he's giving up his princely attire, and he's on his path towards becoming a mendicant. On the left, on the right is the much celebrated image of Dhyani Buddha. You see part of being every other household. According to Ananda Kumaraswamy, the Dhyani Buddha is a representative figure of Indian art. So it becomes like some sort of a textbook or a postcard image, which has slowly become the part of our culture. So this difference between the new Andhra school and its portrayal of the celebratory mode and the theatricality in this image, it comes from the closer cousins to this picture tradition, that is the traditions of Amaravati sculpture and the Ajanta murals. They seem to be taking a lot from particularly Amaravati, as it was closer to the site of Andhra. So you also have these recreations and sketches and drawings from the sites. This one is an Amaravati sculpture, which depicts Nagas and others worshipping the feet of Buddha. Uh, this is another image. If you look at both the images, they are tightly packed with too many characters. There's a lot of action and theatricality going on in these pictures, which was replicated in this picture in the new Andhra school, which is what they were trying to attain, the kind of framing, the kind of sense about everything else. So towards the left side again, I put this image, this postcard drawing of sorts by Nandalal Bose, the much celebrated artist of the Bengal school. Here you can see that the Bengal school as a world was a largely male-dominated world, where you have figures like Ananda Kumaraswamy, Gaganindranath Tagore, and Abanindranath Tagore. Here, Ananda Kumaraswamy is seen to be sort of dictating to Nandalal Bose what or how he should paint. But rather, if you see the image on the right side, this is the image of Digumarti Bucci Krishnamma, the lady who later goes on to become the Damirla Art School's sole proprietor of sorts. She is the one who single-handedly manages the art school with batches and batches of students graduating and learning art to express rather than to set up some sort of ideals which should be followed. As you can see in these in this painting of Bucci Krishnamma behind, you see all her works framed. You can see these artworks, by the way, in the Rajamundry Museum. They are still there. But again, even in the display politics at at the art gallery in Rajamundry, most pictures are of the brother Damodar Ramarao, and most writing you find about this New Andhra School of Art is also largely focused on the male artist who was this doyen of art and who died at a very young age, almost eulogizing him and mythologizing his character. But later on, those who have run the art school and kept his ideals alive are figures like Butchi Krishnamma and Damodar Satyavani. This is the image. I think those who have seen the poster of the talk must have seen this image. This is image is called as Radha. It is by Butchi Krishnamma. So in both the drawings by Butchi Krishnamma and Damodar Satyavani, they both were young women who were married at a very young age and who lost their husbands and became widows at a very young age. There is this aspect of longing. Their paintings and works of art could also be read as this sort of this biographical paintings. And there is also this figure of thinking women, which is almost like a motive in their paintings. In most of their magazine paintings, that is the kind of paintings they came in Bharati and Grihalakshmi as we go ahead, they have this figure of single woman, single mother represented, taking care of the household, doing all the things, or running the charkha, etc. That they both become key players in spreading this information and spreading this knowledge about the charkha movement, that is the weaving of the spinning thread and like making the handloom clothes later on, as we will see more images. So this is the magazine I'm talking about, Bharati. So Bharati is a magazine which was started by this man called Nageshwar Rao Pantalu. Nageshwar Rao is the man who is known for Amrutanjan paint balm. So you also see a lot of these Amrutanjan paint balm and all the other advertisements in these magazines. But this, the image on the right side is Bharati imagining its ideal reader, the female reader being the ideal reader of Bharati. Why? Because they wanted the lessons of nationalism to be transferred to the next generation, mainly the kids, by the women from the household. So this is the ideal reader they imagine. You do not have the image of a man sitting in an easy chair and reading Bharati. This is the image they chose to advertise their magazine with. So this is another image. Again, this thing I told you about, the making of the handloom cloth and everything. This image is called as Pratigirika. It is by this artist named Chamakura Satyanarayana. So Chamakura Satyanarayana also graduated from the JJ School of Arts in Bombay. He was sponsored by the Raja of this estate called Pithapuram in Andhra Pradesh. So though the elite, cultural elite and the regional elite were part of this movement, they also supported, sponsored this artistic activity within the region. In fact, Bharati was got its donations and funds from a lot of princely states across the Deccan. The Nizam of Hyderabad was also one of the donors of Bharati, and you can find the copies of Bharati in the museums and in the libraries of the museums, and also the state museum and the university libraries and other places in Hyderabad. Because the Nizam funded their magazine, he was sent a share of his copies in his public libraries to keep in his museums, etc. So this is from Gruhalakshmi, the magazine, and the cover is by again Butchi Krishnamma. As you can see, they both Butchi Krishnamma and Satyavani, they played a great role in popularizing the Charkha movement across the Andhra region. So these two images are maps from the Andhra Patrika's annual magazine, which came out for every festival of Ugadi. You have the maps here roughly marking states by the languages that are spoken in the states. You can see they have used this yellow for Tamil Nadu and this sort of pink for Andhra Pradesh, and a wheatish color for Malayalam or Kerala, and the white color for the rest of those parts. They were debating and discussing this idea of linguistic states, whether they would work, whether like this linguistic reorganization of states or something of that sort would happen in future. This was happening, mind you, around the 30s. And but one thing interesting I found in Bharati is when they were discussing languages, culture, and other things, they were not discussing them in isolation. They were discussing this in relation with each other. They were sort of going and discussing this, the relationship between, for example, languages like Tamil and Telugu, or Kannada and Telugu, or Marathi and Telugu, or Bangla and Telugu. How are languages in relation to each other? So by having this discussion, they were addressing the larger national. And secondly, they were also not of this opinion that if there is a certain state which is formed on a linguistic basis, it is not that the state will have people speaking only one particular language belonging to that state. The people who speak other languages and various other cultures are also part of this state. So this kind of a pluralistic idea of states or regions is discussed in these magazines. This is the map of the Madras presidency, Bombay presidency, princely states of Hyderabad and Mysore. Largely the kind of area I'm looking at in relation to the Madras presidency, what is happening. So this is a meme from my end. So when I was looking at the archives, and when I was trying to find some material at a particular archive, one thing I noticed is they have a photo of Mahatma Gandhi, and beside that photo, somewhere over there, it is written that archives are a form of public memory. And I entered the space. I asked for a catalog over there, and I was not allowed to browse through the catalog, citing that I was an independent researcher and they're open only to scholars enrolled in universities and other spaces. You will have to get your credentials from some sort of a local university, etc., etc. I was denied entry, and I was helpless at that moment because I don't speak the language as well over there. So I have asked another co-scholar who was working over there to help me out. He in turn said this thing to me, that archives are poison. The access to archives should not be for everybody, just like, there are recipes of deadly poisons and etc. kept in these medical libraries years ago. Like, there should not be allowed access to everyone, just like that archives are poison. So here was the choice that was left in front of me, to accept whether archives are poisonous and, go back to the university, or to like stick to it and to fight and say, no, archives are public memory, one should be allowed to access these archives. And I have chosen the former one, and I'm glad I did. So here is the images that sum up a bit of my struggle to digitize these images. The image towards the extreme left is when I was clicking these photographs just with my mobile, because a camera nor anything else was allowed. Later on, when they got habituated to me, I started taking a bit of an external light sort of source, because there was no light source in this archive. So all the windows are closed, and it gets really difficult to even read through these magazines. The image in the middle, it is by Damodaran Satyavani, the wife of Damodaran Ramarao, and it is her self-portrait. So this I have captured with a combination of external light and the mobile. And the last one is the final one, uh, where I finally got access to a good camera and a good archive and library with their collection intact. So in 3 phases of this digitizing, like, I have worked and digitized whatever material was available to me. So the material you see here is also available on the Internet Archive, but it is just that the digitization of that material was not done up to the mark. You can see the images still in these pixelated format because they were run through these mass scanning machines, and the digitization was also made, I think, pre 2010 or something, which still makes the images look not like prints and photographs, but like dot dot dot, like pixelated images. But as I have gone experimenting with this thing, I have discovered that using a camera and some sort of a lighting and digitizing these images would be the best to have it displayed like this or reproduced tomorrow in the forms of prints, etc., when the need is there. So this is the process I have followed. Jumping into some of the content in these magazines, firstly, I will focus on advertisements. See, largely again, the digitization process of these things, the primacy is sort of given to text and not the images. Or comics or advertisings, because mainly things get digitized for their literary value. But as you can see in both these images, the image towards the left is the advertisement of a confectionery, which is in Madras. And you can see in the image, Bharat Mata is flowering the kids with chocolates. So this confectionaries, in their advertisement, they say that they are a Swadeshi bakers, and the need for you to kind of encourage Swadeshi industries, because they make their chocolates without using hands and by using machine. So you can see this anxiety about bakery products and machine-made products and handmade products. It is already existing in the market. And the image in the right side, you can see, is an image about a tea seller. The brand is called as India Tea, and it is using the image of an Ajanta-like image. And the text reads just like, Ajanta is the kind of a postcard representation and the textbook image of Indian art. Our tea is gives you that experience of, as if you're seeing the murals of Ajanta, as if you're doing something like superior. It relies on this idea of superior taste, superior desire, and these products, both these products, they use the idea of Swadeshi to sell these products in the market. So there is something called as the Swadeshi aesthetic. That is people wearing this khadi fabric. Towards the left, you have the image of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and towards the right is the man, Deshodaraka Nageshwar Rao, who is the editor of the magazine Bharati. You can see both of them dressed in this khadi fabric. So the fabric here, the kind of clothes you wear, also become some sort of a political message, as if people who wear khadi are, they speak the language of freedom. You are creating a sense of belonging across the regions and across the nation by using a certain aesthetic, that is the Swadeshi aesthetic. So the image towards the left, you must have seen, it must be very familiar. That is Tagore selling Godrej vegetable soap. The image towards the right is Gandhi selling a soap called as Charkha flag soap. They use this definition Gandhi gives about Swadeshi, that Swadeshi is not about being jealous about foreign products. It is about us making our own products and us reaching out and buying the products within our reach, within our local region. So that is why they use this quote by Mahatma Gandhi to sell the soaps. There are a lot of soap brands and a lot of tea brands and all the other brands whose advertisements are featured in this, because the anxiety around that time and the desire of people around that time was to be free. So there are these, even Amrutanjan Painbaum, they call themselves, they use this tag called as sovereign remedy. Uh, so these ads also become an important part in speaking about the people of the time and what were their desires and what were they wanting. So this is another comic by this artist called as Talisetti Ramarao. It features two puppets and a hand playing with them and making them fight. One puppet is a visibly Hindu man and the one puppet is a visibly Muslim man. This was in response to the 1920s Hindu-Muslim riots, which took almost across the nation. Sometimes the archive and the images, especially comics like this, they become a harsh mirror towards the truth in today's society. So again, we can imagine whose hand was it back then. But I'm asking this question, which is significant, whose hand is it now? And in the next slide, you see these two, again, comics, both by Talishetty Ramarao again. Here he is addressing this issue of the region and the nation in conversation with each other, where the nation is given primacy, whereas the region gets left behind. You see in the image towards the left, you see almost a shattered home, like there is nothing left in that home, and the people outside are celebrating, and the text inside reads, all the people of Andhra, they are going and celebrating other issues when their home is in a really bad state. They do not care about it. And here the image towards the left, towards the right, is what you see. The letters written on the car, it reads All India program about something, a meeting or something. And under this call of this All India program or Akhila Bharata Karikramam, you have the under the tire, the problems of Andhra people, the Andhras, and they are getting crushed under this tire. So Talisetti Ramarao is known for this kind of critique of the status quo. His comics are almost everywhere in this magazine Bharati. And he's not just a comic artist, but he's also some sort of an art historian in his own right, because he also wrote a book called as Bharatiya Chitrakala, and it was published by the same publishers who published this magazine called Bharati. So here is another image from Talishetty Ramarao, where you see this sort of peace talks or peace discussions going on between people from various parties. What is written in the text above, it reads, United we are strong. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, Ahimsa Paramo Dharma. And under the banner, you can see all the people there assembled for a so-called peace talk, holding weapons out and looking angrily at each other. So as I navigated you towards these elements which are important within the print culture and these things which are important in the archive, I would want to question the state of the archives. Because when you look at images like this, look at books lying just there, and these books in between them, they have wasp nests, by the way. And like lots of books thrown away like this, uncatalogued, not digitized, they are just being thrown like this. It makes you question about the state of the archives, and it also makes you think, maybe the archive or the idea of the archive is that it gets lost before even we all get to know what is inside the archive. So on this note, I think I will end my presentation. The idea behind calling it as the archives, the nation, and the publics is this, that these three entities are intermingled and weaved into each other. These three should not be looked upon as not these three separate entities, but as entities that are always in conversation, informing each other. Thank you.
Thank you, Sai Sagar. It was interesting to see the different kinds of images that you've collected over a period of time, and also the way you kind of brought in the discussion around the nature of archives and the state of the condition of archives that we all kind of feel about. So I had a few things to ask. Um, what is the where was the Andhra School of Art getting its initial patronage from?
Hello.
Am
So,
yeah.
yeah, you are audible. So when the Andhra School of Art began, it was initially started as a family enterprise. You see, their idea was to work like a cottage industry from within the family and friends and everyone else. So when they initially started their work, they were already the people, especially Damodar Ramarao, his paintings were getting sold. There are his paintings in the collections of a lot of princely states. Even yesterday, while I was referring to some articles in Triveni, they mention his paintings being sold to the princely state of Indore, the princely state of Bhavnagar and Baroda, etc. So Damodar Ramarao, before becoming this figure of an artist and coming back to his own town and running his own art school, he was a celebrated artist. This is another reason why I do not just look at it as some sort of a regional development, but also some sort of a cross-regional engagement exercise by the artist. So when they were starting, all his connections, these princely states and the friends who were working, they were funding these things. I think to call Pitapuram or these small estates as princely state would be an overstatement. They were small estates, but they did fund a lot of artistic activity. But by and large, when they were maintaining this thing, they were independent. And also, to put it this way, the Damirla family is also part of the, in that sense, regional elite. So yeah, they were able to fund this. And later on, in the later stage where the women artists become an important players in this thing, uh, Digumarti Buchi Krishnamma, along with her husband, they also started Gandhi Ashram. It is also there at many places, actually. I have heard of one or two places, and they were indulged in activities like widow remarriage, education for all, etc. So they were purely dedicated to the Gandhian cause in that sense. And at the same time, they were also like generating this artistic activity. All their students, if not becoming great artists in their own right, uh, they were teaching at the regional art schools and institutions within Andhra. Yeah.
Okay, okay. No, because one of the artists, Chamakura Satyanarayana, you said
Yeah.
was funded by Pitapuram
He was
Raja for
funded by the
this.
Pitapuram Raja.
Yeah, of that. So I was thinking about similar projects that are happening in the Deccan region. Not exactly art projects, but either setting up of any modern institution.
Yeah.
So art school, if you were to imagine art school as a modern institution, what was the kind of patronage that it was receiving? Because
Yeah.
they are talking about through their
They
art.
were running the art school out of their own family home, basically. Till Durgabai Deshmukh opened that the foundation stone and the building I have shown, which happened in around 1956. They were running the art school out of their home. Yeah.
Yeah. So for Golconda Patrika, that was
Mhm.
published out of Hyderabad, we see that they were initial patronage comes from some Samstana
Yeah.
rulers, and Kotwal Venkatramani Reddy kind of pushes for it, and they also dip into caste networks for patronage
Mhm.
for the during the initial years for both the Reddy Hostel and also Golconda Patrika.
Yeah.
So and you kind of draw this thing of connection between Bharati and Andhra School of Art, and
So I
how does
will
that
intervene here and
work?
I will add something. Actually, the real reason why I got excited when I knew that you were the one I was discussing with, and you worked on Golconda Patrika, because I didn't know about Bharati when I was a kid, but about Golconda Patrika, people like Sardar Jamrapuram Kesava Rao and Suravaram Pratap Reddy, we had lessons in the Telugu textbook while growing up. I didn't knew Bharati. There was no lesson about Andhra school or Bharati or any of these people, but there was there. And secondly, the this Kashinathan in Nageshwar Rao, he was also connected to a princely state. Or estate, basically. His father was like the diwan of that estate, and so that is how he has this network of princely state connections. You see, it is also not really easy, though the Nizam of Hyderabad is known as a generous donor and all. It is not really easy around that time to get access to him and like to pitch this idea to him and get donation for your magazine and all. So he did use the princely state networks, and there are also these other places. The names of the samsthanas and the villages must have changed now. There is this samsthana called as Jayapuram, and these samsthanas, when I say them, they extended from almost near Madras to Odisha.
Yeah.
There were also, the samsthanas who were part of this Bharati's network. I also noticed a few paintings from as far as Parlakemundi or Parlakemundi, which is in Odisha. So they were also active participants, and there were other people sending in their works of art from Burma as well around that time. So through obviously these princely state connections, Bharati has got this massive network. And before Bharati, they had Andhra Patrika as well, which is a daily. So Bharati is more like your feature story or human interest story kind of a magazine, whereas Golconda Patrika and Andhra Patrika, all these, they were like newspapers, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, do you see any kind of how do you think the Andhra School of Arts visual imagery? Of course, you've spoken about the influence it has from the Amaravati
Yeah.
region, but apart from that, do you see any other kind of influences on the visuality?
Yeah. So one thing that is really interesting about the Andhra school is they did not have, which is again, I would connect it largely to the existing space of Deccan. You do not have this visual hierarchy in Deccan where you keep aside art from a certain space and you give primacy, because largely, whether it is by choice or by default, you have this sort of a diversity that is ingrained in Deccan. So in the like the larger art historical writings and other things, the primacy not being given to the medieval, especially the Mughal paintings, etc. They didn't do that, because if you look at the kind of other images other than these illustrations and things which came in Bharati, they were also talking about Mughal miniature. They were also talking about Rajasthani painting. They were talking about these cave paintings. They were talking about Ajanta, Ellora, and all this stuff, all under the same breath. So they were trying to build some sort of an art historical dialogue through their work. And at the same time, they were also acting like an incubator or a network to these budding artists, especially women artists who probably are like first generation painters as well. So this school, if not through its activity directly, it did inspire a lot of other schools. A lot of other schools came up as well. Of course, the pioneering of these schools is the Andhra Jatiya Kalashala in Machilipatnam. Generally, when even while writing this important chapter on the art on Andhra, the people would gravitate towards the Machilipatnam school. But by and large, the school in Machilipatnam as well, thematically, it gravitates more towards the Bengal school than to the Andhra school. Because one of the primary things I believe was the motto of this Andhra School of Art was to represent their own regional culture through images, etc. And at the same time, they were also having these conversations about art. They were doing these reproductions of Ajanta painting, Amaravati art. Yeah. So they were not giving this primacy of one over the above, keeping one above and exactly doing away with the other thing. So I didn't find it in the Andhra school's way of dealing with things. Yeah.
Okay. Was there any kind of anxiety with more for example, whenever we discuss in art, there is this high art, low art, popular art,
Yeah.
and the loss of aura with being
Yeah.
discussed
The
around this.
Benjaminian
Yeah,
argument
yeah,
around,
yeah,
yeah.
the argument, right? So that is something that did something, because when the discourses around language come, there is a lot of anxiety around this modernization of
Yeah.
languages.
Yeah.
So were there any debates around modernization of art and mechanically, publishing art in magazines? Was that even a discussion, or
No,
did they resolve it already?
they were pro making their paintings ubiquitous.
Okay.
Because also when you look at, I mean, if you uh, look at even the digital archive of Bharati, or the physical images that are there in the archives, wherever you have these illustration, they used to leave the page behind it blank. So you can actually detach that particular painting from that magazine, and you can get it framed, or like you can have it as a part of your household. Basically, they were pro popular art. They were not
Yeah.
mediating, because if they were interested in making the salon kind of art, they would rather stick in Bengal or go to the Bombay school. They wouldn't come back and start their own school of art with this sort of a motto to talk about culture and everything else. So yeah.
Okay. One of the images that you showed of Talishetty Ramarao's
Yeah.
Akhila Bharata Karikramam,
Yeah. Yeah.
that was the image that you have. Well, I was just because when they are showing their when they're showing some kind of a dissent against this
Mhm.
idea of nation, because you're saying that the regional concerns are something that they're not
Yeah.
that they want to foreground, as opposed to this idea of a national. Can you tell us what is the time period that that art thing comes out?
These
Which
two
year does it
ones,
come around?
these two ones, that is the Akhila Bharata Samaveshalu, and they were from the 40s.
They were from the 40s.
They were
Okay.
from the
That's
40s.
interesting because,
The ones closer to Quit India movement and other stuff. Yeah.
yeah, that's interesting because by 40s, if we look at the peak of nationalist movement,
Yeah.
then if they are speaking against it, would that be like anti-Congress
But
then?
that is also part of Talishetty Ramarao's, character. Let's just put it that way, because he is someone through his work who kind of criticized all these things from within the fold.
Okay.
He is part of this network of artists. He himself is an artist, but he chose this cartoon as his medium. There are also this kind of, fine prints of gods and other images made by Talshetty Ramarao, but he chose the cartoon as his medium because he believed in this idea of, criticizing the people, freedom of press, freedom of art, and everything else. He also had done this sort of nonsense imagery before he gets into this political tone. His images in the 20s and the 30s, largely, he also done this sort of Dadaist nonsense imagery. The kind of images in popular culture we generally associate with someone like Sukumar Rai from the Bengal. This thing. So he has also done this kind of images, this nonsense images and everything. And slowly he turns into this scathing political anti-Congress criticism of sorts. Yeah.
Okay. No, because if 40s was a moment, then I was
Yes,
still
yes.
really curious to see, because
Because the 40s was also the time where the anxieties around the separate statehood for Andhra also were at its peak. Like they were also like, okay, yeah, India will get its freedom, but what about us? What will happen to us? We are still being associated with the image of the Madras presidency. And that is why I have used this term New Andhra. New Andhra is not just about this thing. So it is also about this new subjectivity, new identity that you're trying to mediate, and you're trying to build something on your own. Yeah.
So what was their aspiration for that new Andhra?
So the goals, as stated in their societies and other documents, they go as the goals are more or less the same as the Indian Society of Oriental Art. In fact, they had cordial relations with all the other schools of art as well, because the Amatla Ramarao's paintings, they were exhibited alongside the paintings like Rabindranath and Nandalal Bose and Abanindranath and all the others in the Indian School of Oriental Arts, their exhibitions, etc. The only thing that makes them unique is these images they tried to depict of the culture, of the things that are not known largely, the cultural imagery, what we associate with them. So they use these sort of cartoons and images, etc., to depict their own culture. For example, the celebration of festivals like Dashara or Deepavali. Deepavali celebrations picture by Digumarti, Buchi Krishnamma and others. You don't see the father. It's just the mother and the children. I'm sorry I didn't bring in a lot of illustrations because I thought it would be a packed session and I'll keep it short. And later on, you also have images of celebrations of obscure festivals, something like Atlataddi, where they exchange these things. You know, the Wikipedia entry on Atlataddi says it is Telugu Karwa Chauth, but it is clearly not Telugu Karwa Chauth, because these are the kind of traditions that came to place because of the syncretism in Deccan's culture, in that sense. Because you also have a counterpart of it called as Rottele Pandala, which is celebrated across a particular dargah in Nellore. So you exchange women exchanging rotis or bread, whatever. The thematic or the iconography of the festival is basically same. It's about women exchanging these rotis, but one is a Sufi festival and one is called as a Hindu festival. So you need a job. There is something called as Udyoga Rutti. So you go to the counter which gives where people with Udyoga Rutti stands, and you take Udyoga Rutti, and they want something else. They want money, let's say Dana Rutti. You'll give your two rotis to them. So it is a festival which is celebrated. So these sort of minimal and documented things. And another thing also, like the kind of images you see of cityscapes which are largely changing. That is also something these people were interested in. There were photographs as well as paintings of cities like Bangalore, Mysore, Chennai, and all the other spaces. So, which makes a magazine like Bharati kind of important for everyone, because it was not exclusively reserved for one kind of a reader. Yeah.
Okay. We can open up the discussion with the audience and then I'll come back
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You can leave your questions in the chat box. You can ask him. You can unmute yourself and ask the questions.
I'm pasting the link to my Substack with you people's permission. Khidki Collective and IFA. Yeah. So yes, this is the only public platform where I intend to share my work. So if there are any questions, I would be happy to answer them. Yeah. Should I present again?
Hi, I'm Sharmila here, and I just wanted to know what was the duration of this research, the total duration of your research of planning, execution, and completion.
Hello, Sharmila. The duration of this research is 18 months. So, and largely I was also looking at it for around some 6 months to 8 months before the research period as well, because I got into this topic and I was looking at material from the time I was doing my master's, the final year of my master's. So yeah, I hope that helps. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I was just wondering how long it would have taken for you to identify people, archives, and all that you need to target. So I just wanted curious to know the groundwork before you did the actual. Yeah.
So well, if I think I need to share the presentation if it is not uh, where's the presentation? Okay, it is not opening. I will just talk about it. So I started with looking at the web archives. First of all, the first piece of article I've shown from this magazine called as Triveni, where there are some 3 to 4 pieces about art in Andhra. There were also pieces which were about exhibition reviews in Calcutta and other stuff. So what was happening was through them, by going through them, I got connected to this Bharati Gruhalakshmi and other stuff. Uh, and side by side, I have also like built a bibliography for myself to read, not just about this moment, but about the time period at large to kind of shape my monograph. So it's basically the approach I'm taking is I'm not just talking about what is happening in Andhra, but I'm talking about what is happening around that time in some sort of a cross-regional connection mode. I will also look into what is happening, for instance, in Bengal, what is happening in the princely state of Mysore, what is happening in Tamil Nadu or Chennai as the Madras presidency, etc. So I am looking at this cross-regional engagement mainly because these magazines and these artworks, they were not really restricted to this particular region per se. You have the artist, the main person, Damodaran Ramarao himself, he studied in Bombay. So the JJ School archives and other places across Bombay, they might have his material. I'm yet to access them. And at other places, he also took on this tour across the nation with his paintings. There were also paintings apparently in Baroda, Bhavnagar, and other princely states across Gujarat, and of course the Indian Society for Oriental Arts exhibition, and a lot of other international exhibitions as well. Um, Apparently, there are also these British journals writing about art in India around that time, and a few of them featured his works, etc. So that is something I will also be looking at. Yeah.
Thanks. This was really,
Yeah.
really good to know more about the Deccan region, the scenario back in the 40s. And yeah, thanks. Thanks so much.
Yeah.
I think we have some question in the chat box. Can you see? Yeah.
Artists of India
I'll
today.
read that out for audience. Just wanted to know how art from Andhra is viewed or represented, or any research published in Art Discourse of India today.
So when I started this project again, I was looking at this thing about art in Andhra. Uh, the first piece of writing I put together was largely from these archival fragments, the kind of writings that is published in magazines like Triveni, Bharati, and other stuff. There was a mention of the Andhra School of Art in Parthamitha's book Triumph of Modernism, but it was just almost it is just a 1.5 page mention in the larger scheme of things, and the art is almost largely reduced to some sort of a footnote here. So I was like looking for some more material, some more material. I have found 2 or 3 unpublished PhD theses, largely looking at them, but they were not looking at the kind of illustrations in Bharati per se. They were looking at them mainly as, there was journalistic interventions made, there were literary interventions made, but artistic interventions, etc. They were made by and large in the form of blogs and popular writing again. There is this one blog called as Shobhana Chala. It The blog is mainly in Telugu, but the person who runs the blog has some fantastic archival material. Maybe that person is a retired archivist or someone. Because when you look at print culture in Telugu, the print culture only kept growing and growing till you have these your dailies like Inadu. Once Inadu started coming, Andhra Patrika's job was gone. Andhra Patrika was shut down in 1996, and around that time, around the 90s only, like Inadu, the daily newspaper has begun. And there were also other magazines like there is this one run by All India Radio as well in Telugu. So even they carried these illustrations, pictures, and all. So when one is kind of looking at all these print culture images and everything, um, it is a rather massive topic I've chosen for an independent research, that too within a limited span of time. But at the end of this, what I wanted to give was, in order for people to see and be like, okay, so here is something, and we can write these many papers, or we can continue these many like researches from this thing, not just for myself, of course, that would be a really selfish thing to do, but to others as well, to look at, because an archival image can be interpreted in multiple ways. So it's not just one interpretation of this image that should be like come out and say, oh, this is the final word on this. No, many interpretations should come together. Someone should like deeply inquire into these images and the histories behind them, etc. But to start with, for that we need the archive. For that we need these images sort of out there in the public domain, not just on niche internet sites or blogs or somewhere. So in order to do it in a popular sense, the way these Andhra school artists instantly thought of going the print way, having these images, etc. So that is something I wanted to look at. So the attempt is not just to add to the canon and say, here is one more chapter, one more question for UGC net to take. No, it is not about that. It is more on the lines of, what happens when you see this, trans-regional connections and cross-cultural connections across the nation, and how they are in line with each other, and how they are communicating, or how they are, sort of differentiating between each other, etc. So that is the idea. I think we have one more
Yeah, we have
question.
one more question on the language barrier that they're asking. Could you elaborate on how you viewed the language barrier when you first started the project? I remember you mentioning not knowing the language.
Oh, by not knowing the language, I did not mean Telugu. I'm sorry. I know Telugu. I'm perfectly fluent in Telugu. Yeah, it is just that I was at another state where this material was available in their own state archive. So there I didn't know the language, and it's not just a language barrier. It's just that they did not want to give me entry. Like blatantly, they did not want to give me entry on the basis of what I know not. But yeah, so the issue happened because of that. It's basically, see, anywhere you go, one would browse through the catalog, right? One should be allowed to browse through the catalog at least. I was not even allowed to browse through the catalog. I was directly told, and when I was like, "Arey, let me look," he slammed the catalog on the day. I was like, okay, the situation is getting out of hand. I better leave from this place. Yeah. So it is that language barrier, not the language barrier with Telugu at all. Yeah.
More on archival access, rather.
Yeah. Yeah. And, another thing being, you don't have, like 1 month, 6 months, or like, 10 months of time to stay in another city, get to know the people. That is, of course, it should be like that ideally, but where you do not have the resources for that sort of a thing, that sort of long durations of stay. You go there, you get your job done. You are more like a traveling salesman rather than, this sort of a scholar. So when you're there, you got to make sure you get the job done and in the most effective manner. But again, the next day, I took it to the higher officials, and that issue was sorted. I was allowed in that archive. So yeah.
There's one more question. This is interesting. Would also like to know how artists from contemporaries like Bengal or British art schools viewed artists and art produced from Andhra, the interactions.
So again, I should take it back to the Triveni magazine. Of course, Oj. Koldri is the mentor of Damodaran Ramarao, and who is also a brilliant artist in his own right. And there is this another figure called as O.C. Ganguly. Now, O.C. Ganguly, for those who know, is an Indologist. He writes a lot of books. He wrote reviews about art shows, etc. And like in one of the editions of Triveni, where O.J. Koldri was kind of celebrating Damodar Ramarao, and he was writing about his art. In response to that, they had a war of letters, O.J. Koldri and yeah, this is some art history gossip. They had this open war of letters between them, where one called, they both called each other names basically. One, he called this guy, he called OJ Colery a colonialist and all sorts of things. Someone like James W. Turner, he likes that kind of an art. And in response, Colery calls O.C. Ganguly as an early Mauryan. It says a lot about O.C. Ganguly than Coldre, because they were writing when they were writing about art. So what O.J. Coldre has to say is that this man points out about the kind of art in Andhra. He just dismisses it. O.C. Ganguly outright dismisses the art of Andhra, and he says, this man is just an amateur artist. I brought his painting just because I wanted to be kind towards that man. And that is a sort of a very, patronizing sort of a view. And even in their exchange, again, even this letter comes from the magazine Triveni. He mentions of Abanindranath Tagore, Damodar Ramarao, and Abanindranath Tagore's interaction, in which Abanindranath Tagore says, okay, you have created an art world of yourself. You have created an art which is distinctly Indian in its own right, and also something which is unique, which is like, him getting some sort of a certificate of appreciation from the Bengal school. So yeah, but Colray was of this opinion that this Indian revivalism in art, it was not up to the mark, and that they should follow the ideals set by these people, not blindly, but they should rather mix it with the subject and subjectivity of today's world, which is what I've mentioned as this unique thing about Andhra art, where you kind of mix these academic art along with your local customs and traditions and themes and stories from the mythology, etc., and you give something which is unique in its own sense. So yes.
Did any of the any of the periodicals that you looked at, sorry, magazines that you looked at, publish any art critique or those related articles from different schools of thought?
Well, there was this, but they were featured like something
Drawing
that is,
from that kind of discussion
yeah,
that he was asking, the question that
yes,
you just got.
yeah. So they were featuring artist exhibitions in Madras and elsewhere. There was not like some sort of a critique or that would be rather interesting to find. But the thing is, the archive is also very scattered. So you get 31, 32, and 33, but 34 and 35 you don't see them. So you move on and find
But
36
that's
somewhere.
the nature
Yeah.
of
So
archives
yeah,
that we work with. No, I mean across it's
even
the same.
the web archive. A few years are like missing in the web archive as well. Mainly the 40s. They say in the 40s it did not come out, but I saw a few print versions of them somewhere. Because of World War II and sometime the magazine publication was stopped. But no, they did publish. But these versions are not readily publicly available. And post 50s material, I rarely had any chance to look at because this in itself is a massive timeline I am working with. But later on in the 55, 56 versions, film reviews start appearing. There were first reactions of people watching Bicycle Thieves in Rajamundry and etc. etc. You know, these kind of film reviews, they take over. And slowly the illustrations as well, they get replaced by photographs. And thus even the covers of the magazines are also replaced by photographs of actors, actresses, politicians, all sorts of things. um, so this grand zenith period of print culture uh, is around this time between the 1920s to 1940s only. Yeah, the later art also borrows from this other traditions. You see, there was magazine art in 60s, 70s, and all. Surprisingly, Pinterest has a lot of these images, these Telugu art kind of images from the 60s and 70s, but they became more like Art Nouveau and imitating Western art. They did not have this sort of Swadeshi aesthetic or the Swadeshi flavor to them. Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, Harshita, I think.
No,
Yeah.
I didn't have any questions. I just wanted to tell the people present here that if they have any questions related to the program itself or the call, you can also ask that because I'm present here to take those questions as well. And I also wanted to mention that if you are interested in pursuing this kind of research on the Deccan, then there are several calls that are open right now, and I can post the links on the email thread that was started, as well as here for you to look at, and then you can click on them and see which one applies to you, and if you would like to pursue any of these. So you can write to us in the email IDs mentioned in the links, and then we can take the conversation forward. So just that, I just wanted to put it out there. Yeah.
Is there one more question in the chat box, I guess?
Aditya has asked another
Yeah,
question.
yeah. There's no continuation as such. This because they do not believe in this some sort of a where you have like well, it will come to me just a second. Um, they do not look at their artistic work as some sort of a revivalism of something. They were rather looking at it as expression where you kind of popularize your ideas. To them, it was just a medium to communicate their ideas. So they were not looking for successors, a line of succession where somebody will carry the name of this art or something of that sort. Yeah. I hope that answers all the questions.
If you do not have questions, should we stop the conversation here, Harshita? What do you say?
Sure. Yeah. It was a very engaging conversation, and I'm so glad that people engaged with the presentation. They asked questions, and I hope that this conversation doesn't stop here, and people carry this conversation forward in different ways. You can approach Sai personally also through his email ID or his Substack account. You can follow him there and follow the writings that come up later also during the period of his research. And you can write to me or approach Khidki Collective for any kind of updates on the kind of research that is happening in the region. So yeah, thank you so much for coming and being part of this. Thank you.
So I just wanted to say a few words. I've been following Khidki Collective's work. I think I've attended all their weekend sessions this month, by and large, and I really love their idea that you should talk about these academic topics and bring in these ideas to a larger crowd, which is again the aim that connects IFA and the Khidki Collective. So I would love it that you would try and reach more larger and wider audiences as you both go ahead in your journeys respectively. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Sai Sagar. Thank you, Harshita. Thank you all for joining us this evening.